Let's stay with energy matters. The termination of the state of disaster on electricity as well as the withdrawal of the Eskom exemption have raised many questions. Now, the state of disaster was declared during the State of the Nation address, while the exemption was announced recently. But let's look at these big retractions now and the impact on governance or the image of government thereof. We're joined by Northwest University political analyst Sysman Motloung. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Sysman. Were you surprised by these big retractions?
Definitely, I was expecting that a government would try to hold on to this, and if possibly they are put to court and they will try to defend it. But this was an easy retraction, really unexpected for me.
Government says that, yesterday through the minister, especially when you look at the state of disaster, which has been withdrawn with immediate effect, it says that for the fact that there was a legal challenge that was, looming, that simply did not play a role here. It says that, in fact, they are entitled to review their decisions and look at what has been happening so far. But is that really, in your view, what happened here? Or was this, in your view, a way to try and avoid this matter going to the courts?
It is possible that they were trying to avoid it, and you also see the strong voice from civil society who were opposing it. If this was just a normal policy decision, one is really surprised by it in terms of how does a senior executive make that kind of a decision that lasts a couple of days, and you retract it because of a public backlash. So for me, that justification does not hold water. Instead, they, I think, admitting now, realizing that how they have fashioned or framed this exemption was really something that is not logical. And they will be opposed for that over the long time.
And the fact that, they went ahead with this particular, exemption, given the fact that the AG, says that she also needed to comment on this, have an input on how it should be framed. And I'm sure there would be other various stakeholders as government now goes back to the drawing board. But the fact that this was announced, signed off, before all of these critical voices were brought to the table, is in itself a huge concern about how things are being done.
Yeah, and this is what you hear the minister saying, that they will now have to go back to consult. And if this was really an honest position by Treasury, they would have really consulted. But what you see, even in the manner that the minister responded to Eskom board, it was more or less copy and paste the demand that Eskom made and presented to Treasury. You will see in that response from Treasury that they did not really think it through, and in how they respond to them, they don't use their own words in terms of substantiating this exemption. It was mainly reiterating what Eskom said. That confirms that there was no wide consultation mainly. That is why most business unions and ordinary citizens were really baffled by this decision.
And I suppose one of the other things that, could be baffling here, Sysman, is the fact that they talk about how now they want to take back, almost like get managers to manage. But Eskom is in this particular crisis that it's in right now. There were managers at the time, but it is here. So how confident are they that these managers will now manage?
I think it's a matter of more closer oversight in terms of what these managers are doing. And if it's a matter of competency, they have to be supported. I think in the long run, it is people who are decapacitated by the politics that are involved in Eskom. You could be a capable manager, but when you are being interfered in terms of your work, that really disempowers you. I think there has to be that kind of a discussion to understand the extent to which political intervention or interference should play in the SOEs. Otherwise, we will still have those managers. As long as ANC people are interfering in Eskom, there's no likelihood that there would be any change. There has to be protection for civilians, particularly public officers in SOEs.
What does this do to the image of government, both at a citizen's level and an investor level?
Yeah, I think we see from a political sense, the citizens see a failing government. This is a big collapse of a big institution like Eskom, to an extent that businesses are going out of work, they are losing profits, they are shutting down, people are being unemployed. This is what we had also the Minister of Electricity trying to emphasize, that the picture is bad. You're losing electricity, and the kind of positions that executives are making in terms of the energy transition that is not protecting jobs is something that really disappoints the citizens, and I think they will feel hard done by the government that they entrusted, especially where there is no alternative. When Eskom collapses, people don't have an alternative, especially the poor. This is what you also hear from left-wing organizations that feel that the privatization of Eskom is really taking it away from the public. And these neoliberal policies are failing globally. And government is following into that template without really putting thought into it, without really opting for alternatives. So politically and socially, people will see a government that is failing.
And of course, a lot of talk even still around the energy mix. But let's stay with politics a little bit as we round up then. You know, we're heading to an election next year, and these have been very big issues. And I'm sure energy, you know, as you've seen with various political parties talking about this and making this issue, you know, big in their own quarters. How big of an issue, when you look at some of the campaigns, it's going to be for the elections?
I think you see mainly from the side of the Democratic Alliance, they are really trying to talk about energy transition and how they in the Western Cape, maybe when they are in power nationally, would try to restore power to the people. That campaign for them. And the question now is to the voter, the extent to which the voter is a rational one, and the extent to which they think the policy, the energy policy affects their daily lives. Do they understand the impact of that? And even though there will be IPPs in place, the affordability of energy is something that is really serious. I think this is what opposition parties should be trying to explain better to the candidates and explain better to the voter, for them to really, when they're voting, they incorporate this aspect. I think people are mainly complaining, should ANC be able to stabilize power supply? We don't know if that will happen anytime soon. The voter will really forgive that. It won't be an issue that they put in their consideration when they're voting. It is now in the hands of opposition to really put this on the agenda as a voting issue.
All right. Thank you so much for your insights. That's political analyst from the Northwest University, Sysman Motloung.